Our human story is a long and winding path. For thousands of years, people have lived together in groups, in villages, and in great cities. And in all that time, a simple but powerful idea has been growing. It is the idea of fairness. It is the thought that every person deserves to be treated with respect. In the ancient world, this was not always the rule. Kings and emperors had great power. But even then, small seeds of human rights were being planted. These were not called human rights yet, but the idea was there, like a tiny sprout pushing through the soil. We can see this in the laws of ancient lands. In Mesopotamia, a great king named Hammurabi wrote down his laws for everyone to see. These laws told people how to act fairly with one another. They were not perfect. The powerful often had more rights than the weak, but it was a start. It showed that rules should apply to people, creating order and a sense of justice. In ancient Persia, another king, Cyrus the Great, did something remarkable. He freed slaves and said that people could choose their own religion. This was a revolutionary concept, a whisper of the freedoms that would one day be demanded by all. These early ideas were like streams flowing into a great river. Philosophers in ancient Greece and Rome talked about natural law. This was the belief that there are certain rights that belong to us simply because we are human. They are not given to us by a king or a government. They are part of nature itself. These thinkers imagined a world where reason and justice guided human life. They asked big questions. What does it mean to be good? How should we live together? Their questions echoed through the centuries, slowly shaping the world to come. This ancient quest for fairness was not a straight line. There were many times of darkness and cruelty, but the idea of inherent dignity never completely disappeared. It was kept alive in stories and laws and in the quiet hopes of ordinary people. It was a recognition that within every person there is a fundamental value. This recognition, this simple truth, would become the very foundation upon which the grand structure of human rights would one day be built. It was a promise, waiting for its time to blossom for all of humanity to see. As societies grew more complex, people began to demand that their rights be written down. They wanted promises on paper, powerful words that even a king could not ignore. One of the first and most famous of these is the Magna Carta, or the Great Charter, from England in the year 1215. The nobles of the land forced their king to sign it. This document declared that the king was not above the law. It said that a free man could not be put in prison without a fair reason. This was a monumental step. It was a paper shield, protecting people from the absolute power of a ruler. Hundreds of years later, new ideas about freedom crossed the great oceans. In America, people fought for independence. They wrote a beautiful document called the Declaration of Independence. It contains the famous words that all men are created equal, and that they have certain rights that cannot be taken away. These rights include life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. A little later, in France, a revolution brought forth the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. It stated clearly that all people are born free and equal in their rights. These documents were like beacons of light, inspiring people all over the world. These papers were not just for the people of their time. They were messages sent to the future. They established principles that would be fought for again and again. They spoke of freedom of speech, the right to a fair trial, and the idea that a government should serve its people, not the other way around. Of course, the reality was often different. The rights written in these declarations were not given to everyone. Women, slaves, and people without property were often left out. The journey towards true equality was still very long, but the words had been written, the promises had been made, and they could not easily be unwritten. These documents became powerful tools for change. People could point to them and say, "This is what you promised. This is the freedom we deserve." They were the blueprints for a better, fairer world. They showed that human beings could, through reason and courage, define their own freedoms and demand that those freedoms be respected by the powerful. The struggle was far from over, but these great papers provided a map for the path ahead. The 20th century brought with it two terrible world wars. These conflicts caused unimaginable suffering. Millions of people lost their lives. Entire cities were turned to dust. The world saw cruelty on a scale it had never witnessed before. When the Second War finally ended, people everywhere were in shock. They looked at the devastation and asked a solemn question. How can we stop this from ever happening again? How can we protect the dignity and worth of every single human being on this planet? The answer was a global effort to define and protect human rights for everyone. From this deep desire for peace, the United Nations was born. It was a place where countries could come together to talk instead of fight. And one of its very first tasks was to create a list of rights that belonged to all people, everywhere. In 1948, they presented the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This document was groundbreaking. It was translated into hundreds of languages. For the first time in history, the world came together to agree on the basic rights and freedoms that every person should have, no matter who they are, where they live, or what they believe. The Declaration lists 30 fundamental rights. It says that everyone has the right to life. It says no one should be a slave. It speaks of the right to education, the right to work, and the right to rest. It declares that we are all born free and equal. It protects our freedom to think what we want and to say what we think. It is a powerful statement of our shared humanity. It is not a law that can send someone to prison, but it is a standard, a goal for all nations to strive for. It is a promise from the world to itself. The creation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was a turning point. It marked the moment when human rights became a truly international concern. It was no longer just a matter for one country or one king. The way a government treated its own citizens was now a matter for the whole world to see and to discuss. It was a clear message that the suffering of one person is the concern of all people. This declaration became the cornerstone of modern human rights, a guiding light in the long and often difficult journey toward a more just and peaceful world. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights was a wonderful achievement, but it was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of a new chapter. The journey of human rights is a continuous one. It is a living, breathing process that is always growing and changing. The world today is very different from the world of 1948. We face new challenges, and with them come new questions about what it means to be safe, to be free, and to live with dignity. The idea of human rights must adapt to meet these new realities. Think of our incredible planet. Today we understand that a healthy environment is essential for human life. This has led to a growing movement for the right to a clean and safe environment. People are now arguing that protecting our air, our water, and our ecosystems is a fundamental human right. Think also of the digital world. The internet has connected us in ways we could never have imagined. This has created new discussions about rights, such as the right to privacy online and the right to access information freely. These are conversations our grandparents never had to have. The fight for rights also continues for many groups of people. Around the world, individuals and organizations work tirelessly to protect the rights of women, children, indigenous peoples, and people with disabilities. They work to ensure that everyone is treated equally, regardless of who they love or the color of their skin. These brave people are the modern-day champions of human rights. They remind us that declaring rights on paper is not enough. We must work every day to make those rights a reality for every single person. Human rights are, in the end, about one simple thing: protecting our shared humanity. They are the rules we make to ensure that we can all live together in peace and with respect. They are a shield for the vulnerable and a guide for the powerful. The journey is long and there is still much work to do, but it is a journey we must all take together. For when we stand up for the rights of others, we are also standing up for our own. We are nurturing that ancient seed of fairness, helping it grow into a strong tree that can shelter us all.